And live, okay. Yeah, we're totally going to be talking about a pipe today. I wonder how many jokes about Kabbalah are incoming. Because, you know. That's probably enough to generate a thumbnail.
Good morning. Hey, I see Scrimshaw's with us this morning.
And she's going to go reboot.
I was eating dinner with my mom, and she was asking me if we had seen you around lately because she hadn't noticed you in the chat. Good to have you back there, Scrimshaw. And speak of the devil, there's my mother.
and it is a smidge windy outside.
It is.
And
I'm a little concerned. I think I've got a couple of orders for drone flights today. They just might have to get rescheduled.
They might not have to get flied.
They might not have to get flied. My man, I had 2 drone flights yesterday on houses. I was not. The weather report said 7 miles an hour. It was wrong.
Yeah.
And I try not to fly the birds at anything higher than about 12.
Yeah, that's the one drawback. Hey, nice, light, easy to maneuver drone, but defeats it, you know?
Yeah.
That's the drawback.
Well, I've got a pretty decent fleet, so I was flying the Phantom 4 yesterday. It's a heavier, more powerful drone. And I mean, you and I both know, in fairness, we were flying that one because, oh shit!
Uh-oh. You know what that means?
That means burgers. Okay, so my mother just said, Granddad just called. That'd be His Majesty. And says the moose is on the ground. Okay. Hadn't intended. This is not a conversation I expected to have, but for those of you who are not in the know, which is going to be quite a chunk of my audience because most of you are relatively local. If you've never had any dealings with it, it is in fact legal to hunt moose in Maine. However, in order to get a license to hunt moose, you have to enter a lottery. And, it costs a little money to get in the lottery. And then if you win, if your name gets called in the lottery, you could take a team. I'm not sure how many people are on your team to go, but hunting a moose is not a solo sport. You can find a moose and kill a moose by yourself, but then you've got 2 tons of basically beef with horns that you have to maneuver. You have to figure out a way to get it out. Okay, Ma says 4 on a team, and so Dad has been up there. Oh, and that's once you've got it. Like the season opens and it's open for a week. You've got a week to get your moose, and then you're done, and you get 1. Right, your 4-man team gets 1 moose. So my dad and my brother-in-law are up in Maine doing that hunt, and this upcoming Saturday would have been the end of their go. If they didn't have it by half an hour to sundown on Sunday or on Saturday, that would have been it. And so now Sergeant Major's got to hang out and wait for the moose to be processed. Ma said it's on the ground, which means the old man is going to be working with his buddies. They're going to be working hard until about noon today between field dressing and dragging that big beast out of the woods. I can't wait to see pictures.
Yeah, this is not like killing a doe where you can just drag it out of the woods by yourself.
Correct. You don't sling this one up on your shoulder and take a hard, long walk. That's not the way this works.
That's not.
In fact, I assume many of you have hit deer driving at night in Georgia. Remember that one time? Okay, so we were on 138.
Rabbit holes have rabbit holes.
I know the rabbit holes have rabbit holes. It's cool. It's cool. This could be good because I think you were with me. It was Halloween night. 20 some years ago. We were in my big ass van. We were all in costume. We hit a deer on 138. Pulled over on the side of the road and got out to see if we could pick it up, right? And because we clipped it, I'm sure we clipped it hard enough that I shattered its hips. It just jumped that stretch of 138 on right before Grenade Road and Heritage High School. We hit it, and I'm sure I shattered its hip. Got out to see if we could get it. Had my Bowie knife. Was ready to rock and roll, and the cops pulled up, and we're all in costume, right? And dressed like serial killers and monsters and whatnot. And the cop asked, "Well, do you want to file a report? You want to file a report?" And I looked at him. I said,
"Does the deer have insurance?"
That's exactly it. I asked him, "Am I going to file a claim against Bambi's insurance?" No, I don't want to file a report. I'm going to go buy a new headlight. Have a nice night, officer. Dumbass. Oh,
see, I hit a deer once, and it.
He just wanted to see our IDs.
Right. So, but as your mom points out, if you hit a moose,
yeah. So for those of you that have hit a deer, off. Yeah, it might wreck your front end. The thing about moose is they're so tall. They're so tall and they weigh 2 tons. You don't hit a moose. You hit his knees. And then he just falls over and crushes you to death.
Right.
That's not the one you want.
Right. I just am looking forward to... Remember a few weeks ago when your dad made moose fajitas?
Yeah.
I have wanted more moose fajitas ever since.
Yes.
And I get the feeling that...
And the other one that I always look forward to when we've got game meat on tap is Ma does a Hungarian goulash out of game meat. It's usually venison, not moose, but moose will do just as well. It's so good, so good.
Okay.
All right,
it's almost 7:40. We should probably.
And I have enjoyed this little rabbit hole. But let's talk about
Putin.
What happened. So what happened was...
In Mother Russia, pipeline leak you.
This was big news yesterday. Fair. So we're a day behind on the news cycle for this one, but...
Oh, no, this is going to be big news for a while.
It is going to be big news for a while, and we're going to get into the why on that here as well. But, of course, we had to do Take It To Him Tuesday yesterday, and we're going to be sticking to that until the election's passed.
Yesterday was Wednesday.
Holy shit, it was, wasn't it?
All day long.
Wow. What did we even do yesterday?
My birthday.
Oh, I remember. I spent hours in 75 North traffic. I went to shoot a house near Macon, and then I went to Decatur, and then I went to this other place, and then back to Decatur, and every freaking leg between houses ended up being in this insane evacuee traffic. Florida, sit down, shut up. You asked for this. You moved to Florida, you new guys. My favorite new meme is the Florida new residence initiation cycle. It's rush week. You chose to join this fraternity. Now bend over and take your paddle. So,
but speaking of Florida, I saw Dave in the chat somewhere, and I am glad Dave is alive enough to be in the chat. And apparently, Dave's Florida experience, he was going to do it right. Like, he and his dog were going to sip a bottle of whiskey, and he and his dog were going to sip a bottle of whiskey, and apparently he just old man fat fingered it, opening it, and dropped it unopened on the ground and shattered it. The whole bottle of rye just.
Oh.
Yeah, made me sad to see the picture.
That's a damn pity. Talk about a party foul.
But anyhow.
So, destroyed forever. Nord Stream gas leaks believed to be deliberate sabotage. Okay, so we're going to read a little bit of this article, and then here's where we are. We're in rampant speculation mode. All right.
Yeah.
There is still a dearth of information out there, but we do have some specific information that is interesting and suspicious. And one of the things I want you to think about as information continues pouring out,
okay, Liz Cheney's secret system says, brush fire mine, the ocean is blue, so is Monica Lewinsky's dress. Both have white spots on them. Coincidence?
No, I think you put your finger on it there, Liz.
I don't think Bill Clinton put his finger on it.
The Clintons are obvious CIA agents. The CIA has been purchased by China, and China stands to gain the most by sabotaging these pipelines.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
But there are other suspicions as well.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
So both experts and governments have claimed that the gas leaks detected in the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines this week were likely caused by deliberate sabotage. One with member of the European Parliament specifically thanking the United States following the strike. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen stated that the gas leaks, one of which occurred in Danish waters, were the actions of sabotage, although the Danish leader did not name any possible culprits who may have been behind the incident, stating there is no information indicating who could be behind it. Well, that's incorrect, but we'll get to that. Bjorn Lund, director of the Swedish National Seismic Network, meanwhile, has claimed that the leaks were preceded by explosions in the same areas, including one explosion that registered as a 2.3 magnitude earthquake off the island of Bornholm. Excuse me. Can we read for a minute, please?
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. What a name!
Wow.
Yes, Mr. Bond, I will take over the world. Also claimed that the incident was an act of sabotage after speaking with Prime Minister Frederiksen and said an investigation needed to be conducted. Any deliberate disruption of active European energy infrastructure is unacceptable and will lead to the strongest possible response. Be careful with that language, she said, especially when you don't know who sabotaged the pipe. Professor Veli-Pekka...
Take it in.
Professor VPT from University of Helsinki's
Aleksanteri Institute.
I could have done that one. I was just processing it. I can read good, too.
You can read good English.
I can read good. Blamed Russia for the leak, saying it's still difficult to say how it is technically implemented. I can also say that Russia and its own propaganda twists the matter so that the Ukrainian special forces are behind the act. While others have also blamed Russia for the leak, the Polish member of the European Parliament, Radek Sikorski, posted a picture of the area of the seas where the leak occurred, simply stating on Twitter, "Thank you, USA." I mean, until about December, and then they're not going to be so thankful.
Right. This is going to be bad for Europe generally.
Well, I mean, this is why you don't trust the commies for your capitalist shit. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Well, no, but I mean specifically, okay? This is why you don't socialize a thing you need. If you socialize water and the government fucks up your water, hello, Flint, Michigan, how many options do you have? Practically zero.
Well, yeah, and you look at Russia and Ukraine, for example. These are incredibly fertile, workable territories. The capacity for them to crop is extraordinary. And of course, part of the collapse of the Soviet Union was that as a result of mismanagement by communists, they were unable to use that valuable land productively and produce crops. The other piece of what caused the Soviet Union to collapse was when Russians started getting to watch Dallas, and which was basically pro-America propaganda, and said, "Oh, wait a minute! When you have good land, you can grow food. Why didn't we try that?" And then they were like, "Well, we did, but we tried it the commie way." And
hey, man, they pretend to pay us, we pretend to work. They pretend to feed us and we pretend to eat.
Ooh.
Okay, but I really wanted to hammer that home.
North Korea.
Look, I really wanted to hammer that point home just to really make the point. Like, when you make a deal with the devil, that's who you're in bed with. Okay, and when you decide, well, man, the USA and they're arrogant and they're this and they're that and they're blah blah blah. I'll just get my gas from Russia, or I'll work out a deal with China. And putting aside the fact that I actually think there's a lot of value in engaging in commerce with these countries because we're going to drag them further into the light by doing it. That's not what I mean here. What I mean is the dependency on a resource you need. Okay, like if I run out of gourmet coffee, I'll drink the Walmart brand. But if I run out of fucking gasoline, I
can't go to Walmart and buy coffee.
Yeah, I ain't going nowhere. Right?
Where you going?
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Greenleaf, this was a sink. Find me some metal pieces. Root through this shit. Well, Freud was right.
There was a firefight. So, I have not watched that movie in a long time.
I wonder if now that I'm a much more educated and, dare I say, even snobbish cinephile, I'm kind of terrified I'm going to watch it again and it's not going to hold up.
Okay, so St. Patrick's Day 2023, my yard, big screen, Boondock Saints.
I'll tip her.
Whiskey and hot wings.
I mean, I can only get so erect.
There's a desk over here. I can't. That's as far as I can go.
So anyhow, okay, all right. This is what happens when you rely on commies. Okay. But let me just tee this up for you, because you actually have more complete.
China?
Hold on, let me tee this up for you because you have more complete thoughts about it than I have. Okay, I'm prepared to accept as a working theory that the U.S. sabotaged. That the U.S. sabotaged this pipeline for a whole bunch of reasons. Not the least of which is, do you have the video of Joe Biden smirking at the camera? Go, oh, we take care of that pipeline.
I don't, but he said it.
And he said it with like the smirk, like, no, go ahead, take a swing at me.
Yeah.
No, that same smirk you might give your kid. No, go ahead. Refuse to eat your dinner. You know?
Yeah.
Breakfast a long way away, and that shit will sit in the fridge, right? So I'm prepared to accept as a working theory that the U.S. Sabotaged the pipeline, which kind of be an act of war.
Yeah.
All right.
And wouldn't surprise anybody.
But here's
let's remember, until we got Bush in office, Bush the second, W, who, let's be real, the compassionate conservative.
Or just a Democrat.
He was a Democrat. He's a Texas oil Democrat.
Yeah, the compassionate. So
if anybody doubted that W was a Democrat, that should have been laid to rest when Trump ran and we saw W come out against everything that is America and conservatism, family values, capitalism.
Yeah, it's real easy for
Christianity, human decency.
Yeah, real easy for them to talk about passing an amendment to the Constitution that codifies marriage between a man and a woman. But when you've actually got an opportunity to, like, I don't know, just flatten out the tax code.
Right.
So anyhow, but look, here's the thing, pipeline, right? And no, we're not talking about Monica Lewinsky this morning.
No, we are not.
And you'd think with a giant busted pipeline, that's exactly what we'd be talking about. Especially since there's two of them.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Just stop.
But okay, all right, I swear.
A Democrat rode our march into every major conflict, well, every war in U.S. history.
Okay, so here, I promise, this time I'm going to get there, and then I'm going to shut up and let you tell everybody your theory. I'm only operating under that assumption because it is the one that is that makes the most sense. Okay. There was a vague threat made about the pipeline, and then magically the pipelines stopped working and started leaking. And if it was just one, it would be different. But when it's more than one, now you're moving into some pretty bizarre coincidence territory, okay? However, we live in that world where Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. And in a world where go ahead. In a world where Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, your vice president.
In a world where Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself, yeah, the U.S. could have done it. And probably the U.S. did it, but I could see Russia doing it as some kind of false flag thing. I could see Ukraine doing it as some kind of false flag thing. I could see a third party, a country that's not directly involved in the conflict, but they've done the math and want to knock over some of the chess pieces on the board and do some like full-blown in the pale moonlight level espionage type shit. Also sabotaging this pipeline. And I think in that world, it makes it very different. When Chris and I did the prep on this, I was very specific and said, I'm going to operate as though our CIA or some similar organization sabotaged it. But that's not necessarily what I believe, because I'm not real sure what the fuck to believe happened there, other than this pipe was probably sabotaged.
Well, here are your probable culprits. There are some things to consider. Okay, so we have a Democrat in the White House right now. That is always a significant precursor to significant conflict. Democrats love them some war.
They love to talk about hate and war.
It's the damnedest thing. You know, conservative men especially, we love to fight a war. I do. I cannot tell you how good it feels to fight a war, how much fun that adventure is. But I don't want to just go fight a war. I want to fight a war that matters. If there's a war to fight, I'll fight it. And it's awesome. But Democrats are all about a war. They're all about that money and that power. Now, we had Donald Trump for a mere 4 years, and he all but stopped conflict in the Middle East.
Some of which he did with force. But
Exactly, he did, and that is part of the work.
don't go to Moab.
Don't go to Moab. All but ended conflict in the Middle East, eradicated the functionality of ISIS, started making significant diplomatic inroads with Russia, China, and North Korea, where we had very positive forward development in our diplomatic relationships there. We got a shitbird Democrat in office in Joe Biden, and the Democrats got nominal control of the House and Senate, and it was almost instantaneous. All of that work was undone.
Yeah, remember just a few years ago, there were these things called the Abraham Accords that
Right.
were moving forward? So named because all the Abrahamic faiths were coming to an accord, a thing nobody thought was possible.
And there it was, and it's over. So
pipelines.
So there's one motivational subset. The U.S. is currently in the control of the Democrat Party. In theory, in nominem, we're in control of the Democrat Party. And the Democrats love them some war. Go back and read your history books, look at all the major conflicts,
Especially
and
in the
see who
past
was
century.
the president. Yes, especially in the past century. You basically lay one war at Republican feet, and that's the Civil War. Because if Abraham Lincoln as the first Republican president isn't the pure Republican, then that's different. Scrimshaw says, not too fun for people getting their limbs blown off. You're not wrong. And that is part of it. But, so back to the motivations. The Democrat motivation, they're all about some war to feed that military-industrial complex. There's just a shitload of money to be made there, right? They don't care about people dying and all. They're not interested, right? I mean, we saw Barack Obama's presidency where he led the world and history in targeted drone strike assassinations. By the way, targeted drone strike assassinations, which could have been very, very surgical, we have the technology for that, and were not. Right? The collateral damage caused by Barack Obama's drone strikes programs were intentional. He chose to use weapons that caused more collateral damage. The next possibility.
For a guy that hated Winston Churchill, he sure did ape one of his more controversial tactics. Anyhow.
The next one to look at, what about eco-terrorists? Like legitimate Greenpeace-nick eco-terrorists.
Thanos did it.
Now, there's one big piece that complicates that, and that is that the Greenpeace-nicks, well, you got to get money from somewhere. A sabotage like this is expensive and complex.
Yeah, well, anything you do on the bottom of the ocean.
I wish Legion were in the chat right now. You would talk about somebody that could speak to this.
Anything underwater is complicated, but when you're talking about something that is more than like...
You're going to operate enough explosives to cause from underwater, where the explosion is suppressed by the pressure of the water, deep water, and it's going to cause a 2.3 Richter scale magnitude earthquake.
Well, water's weird. It suppresses the explosion, but it magnifies the sound wave. It's what you can hear for miles underwater. It's weird, man. It's weird. Anyhow.
So you got your Greenpeace-nicks, but the thing about the Greenpeace-nicks, the eco-terrorists, is they would have to be funded. And one can hardly imagine somebody with enough money and the motivation, like George Soros or Klaus Schwab or Barack Obama or I could keep doing this.
I mean,
So
it's not even that hard to, and really, it's not that hard to imagine that somebody gets a Thanos complex and believes they're doing a net good. Well, we've got the world by the balls, and we're trying to make everything go green anyway. So if we break this pipe, well, they can't flip it on this winter. They'll have to figure something else out.
right. But the last one, and I suspect the most probable, you ask yourself the question, who stands to profit most? Right? The reports that we have so far, and again, this is reporting from the fake news press based on information being disseminated by dubious governments who are dubious at best. And when I say governments who are dubious at best, that includes all current governments. All of them.
I think most of the people in our audience would understand that.
You know, I do not believe that government cannot be uncorrupt. I just believe that it doesn't exist currently. And I also believe that an uncorrupt government is just about a total pipe dream, but a possibility, if not if a far-flung one. But China, who manufactures the weapons that are being used by Russia to conduct the Ukrainian invasion, China, who stands in direct opposition to the growth and profitability and prosperity of the United States of America.
And environmental concerns.
Correct. China stands to lose the most by having if standards of clean energy production in keeping with the cleanliness of current American technology, not even expanding the requirements, just some sort of enforcement mechanism which made places like China and India produce energy as cleanly as America already does, were to somehow be implemented, that would end the Chinese economy overnight. China stands to gain the most. They want the U.S. weakened. They want Russia weakened. There is huge profit for China in weapons manufacturing and in trade manipulation once Russia or the U.S., they don't care which, suffers significant blows to their economy as a result of energy problems. This explosion, because of the way that energy production, let's be real, oil will be routed in response, and natural gas, but mostly oil, excuse me. Speaking of natural gas, sorry about that. Good luck. China stands to profit most from everything that is the likely outcome of a sabotage on that pipeline. So, when you look at the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage, I want you to imagine Pooh and Piglet in dry suits with C4.
So, initially, I wasn't real sure how much I believed the theory, okay? But as it plays out, I refer back to something we talked about earlier in the week, that Russia's proven itself to be a paper bear, and that China might be a paper panda. And I think the same basic math would apply if we tried to invade China. It'd be a nightmare. But if China tried to force its citizens to fight against people that they don't really give two flying shits about, it also would be a nightmare for China. So, yeah, they can boast a 1 million man standing army or whatever the ridiculous number is, but how many of them actually want to be there? And so what do they have as options?
Yeah. And I don't mean this to be cruel or racist, but the fact of the matter is, any one given red-blooded American redneck is worth 20 Chinese soldiers for one reason and one reason only.
Well, it's because
they like to shoot guns.
Yeah. Yeah. And in particular, oh man, let me shoot at some terrorists, some commies, or otherwise somebody you would label a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? No, don't give me a guy with a bad European accent and a chip on his shoulder. I'll blow his brains right out.
Yeah, give me an ammo quota that is roughly equal to the available enemy in a target-rich environment, and the richness of that target environment is irrelevant against the resource production.
So there's that, okay? And then I guess what I'm driving at is they've got like the Korean War to look at where...
Well, Liz, I'm worth 20 Chinamen.
Well, where they've got like the Korean War to look at where they literally just used to throw bodies at machine gun nests, and the machine gun nest, like the barrels would warp because they couldn't take breaks firing, right? And it didn't matter that dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of Chinese soldiers, like they'd have to climb over the bodies to become the next body, right?
It's like the wall at Israel in
So, but what I'm saying is, I think those days are done. But what China can do, and we've seen that they're willing to do it with COVID. Well, if our toys are broken, fuck all y'all. Basketball season's done this year. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll all get to come back next year. And the thought that they would do that with energy production is actually not terribly surprising. You know, if a guy like Donald Trump was in office, you know what this would be? This would be a business opportunity.
Yep.
Because Europe needs gas. Europe needs affordable gas. Europe needs somebody to come along and say, hey, I tell you what, you signed a 10-year contract with us. For the first 2 years, we'll do everything it costs, baby, because we don't want your people to fucking freeze to death.
Right, exactly. And then we'll produce nearly unlimited energy cheaply and with the cleanest production standards in the world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And natural gas already burns about 20% fewer pollutants than gasoline anyway. So the more we switch over to natural gas, the more we're going to inherently lower our CO2 emissions. I don't know that I agree with Elon Musk on this one, that, you know, that we're not that far off from people thinking about the internal combustion engine the same way people think about horses. So, well, if you really want to ride one to work, you can. But again, putting all that aside, if we even just look at natural gas as a stepping stone and the fact that it's fantastic, like you want your house to be warm in minutes, natural gas will do it, baby.
Yep.
But
so, yeah.
But you know, and I'm just going to say it, and YouTube, this is not anti-Semitic, it's just fact. Jews in Europe are going to freeze to, old lady Jews are going to freeze to death in Europe. It's going to happen because of shit like this. I'm just saying, you'd think they'd be motivated. Because, you know, it's bad when things happen to Jews, Chris. Just ask the left. They'll tell you all about it.
Is that why they moved the capital?
Okay.
And on that note, y'all be safe. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Firearms Friday. Don't be late.